that. So today, I've got one for you, and the name of this is 7 Tools for Closing the Gap Between I'm Going To and It's Done. 7 tools for closing the gap between I'm going to and it's done. So this is riffing off of our 9 H's, and it's looking at that. It's specifically hustle. So, work hard, find the yes, follow through. And we attach, as we know, the verse to it: diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in what? Forced labor. Why am I bringing this up? This isn't because I'm looking around and being like, everybody's lazy. That is not it. What's happening is I'm seeing how our organization is growing, how God is blessing the church. I see what could be and what will be. And it's like if you've ever gone whitewater rafting, there's a time where it's just calm, right? It's calm. But you see what's coming up, and then you lock in, you get your foot situated, you hunker down. I'm seeing what's coming, right? We've got a lot of opportunity, but there's some rapids. And so this is not me saying, y'all aren't doing it right. This is me saying, hey, I see this coming up, and now is the time to start getting good at some of these things, getting good at it, so when the rapids hit, we go through it. And we're ready for the next one, okay? So not a critique of how we're doing it today. It's a course correction while we're still moving well. So time to adjust. So here's what I've been seeing. I've been paying attention to something across our team. I've been hearing phrases here and there, and it sounds something like this: I'm going to. I'm about to. Well, it should be. I think I might. And so I'm hearing these phrases that almost sound like plans, but they're not the same as I'm done. I started this morning. I'll have that to you by tomorrow at 5. See the difference? This isn't because we're just like, oh, we don't care. I'm starting to see it with our organization. And let me give you an example of how this starts to impact. So, we have these portable offices. When were we supposed to be in them originally? March of like a year ago. So what is happening? Well, here's what's happening. I'll give you a great example of last week. OG&E came out, and they're working in collaboration. And they came out, and they said, okay. They looked at the company there. Do you have the part? And the company goes, I thought you were bringing the part. Oh, I didn't bring the part. Okay, we'll see you next week. Right? We can't have our cabinets put into the office until we have power in the building. So no power in the building has delayed cabinets going in. See the ripple effect there? We have not had glass installed in the building yet for the offices because when they were delivered, there were some things they had to correct. Not uncommon, but some defects with the wall, so they had to correct that. And so what starts to happen is you get this ripple effect. This thing that goes down. Here's the key that you got to understand in a complex project like that is every handoff is a dependency someone else is counting on. And when we treat handoffs casually, the people counting on us absorb the cost of that. So that's a hustle problem. Specifically, it's a follow-through problem. Here's what I see with this team. Here's what I love with this team. Work hard is visible. And you guys work hard. Oh, man, you guys work hard. Finding the yes is about being creative with solutions, and you guys are creative with solutions. You can see who's solving the problem, but follow-through is invisible, mostly invisible, and it happens in the gap between deciding and doing, and that is the gap where things can go to die. And it's tricky because it's not always obvious. Hustle, it's obvious. Find the yes, it's obvious. Follow through sometimes. Whoop. Okay, why is this happening? Surprise, this is not a shock for any organization that grows. What we are experiencing is incredibly normal for an organization that begins to grow. In fact, think back. How many of you guys were here when Brian Mills, our senior pastor, came? Right? Okay, how many were on staff? Are things a little different than they were then, Toby, Alan? Right. Do we do things a little different than we did then than we do now? Completely. Little's the wrong word. Why? Because we grew. God blessed us. We had vision. We had direction. We've been through this before. We're going to go through it again. So we'll be fine if we recognize what's happening and we decide, I see these next set of rapids. We're going to lock in. Follow through is the next thing we're going to lock in on. So the transition we're now is the same as always experienced. But why are we also seeing this? We intentionally want to be, obviously, we want to be good stewards of the generosity that people have towards this church. It is our responsibility to steward it well. What does that mean when it comes to staffing and hiring? There are 3 ways you can staff. You can overstaff. That's expensive. You can staff exactly to what you need. Good luck, that's impossible. Or you can slightly understaff because that's responsible. We choose option 3. We want to be responsible. What that means is we run on purpose very lean. But here's the thing. Running lean has a trade-off, and the price is this. There is no slack in the system to absorb a lack of follow-through. In a system with slack, when you have time, variations even out. Some people are early, some people are late, but the extra capacity absorbs the difference. But in our type of system, variation doesn't even out. It compounds. How many of you ever experienced, hey, we're going to lunch, let's go at 11:30. If you leave by yourself to lunch at 11:30, you'll leave on time. Now bring someone with you and bring another person with you. What are the chances of you're going to be late? They go up the more people you add to it. That is the nature of an organization, and you have to intentionally recognize it and fight against it. So there's a cost to that variation compounding. There's 3 of them, and I want to break these down and then give you the 7 tools. So first cost, it ripples downstream. Here's what it looks like inside our staff. Have you all had that experience where, okay, I waited 2 days to maybe make this phone call. Maybe I waited 2 days to do a contact. But then that delayed the next step within my team by 2 days. And then the other person needed to do something. They had to wait till next week. And all of a sudden, a 2-day delay turned into a 2-week or a 3-week delay on the ultimate thing. We've all experienced this. Hey, I asked, let's be real. Hey, I asked this team for that, and I'm waiting. It's not because that team doesn't care. Let's be clear on this. This isn't about intention, but results matter. And any delay in follow-through has a compounding and ripple effect to each other. And that's just the first layer. That's just what happens with us. Then it cascades down to our Together We team, the people we lead. Because here's what happens. When we delay on follow-through and we hand stuff off last minute, what does that feel like to a volunteer? What does it feel like? Did you value my time? Did you plan? It feels like a crisis. If we're scheduling people the day before, it feels like a crisis because we didn't have the follow-through to set it up. Does that make sense? So you have that cascade in the effect. Because our job is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. We don't do it alone. And y'all, if we count in all of our volunteers, that's 600-700 people. So our lack of follow-through has an amplifying effect that will cascade down. But it doesn't end there. Because who are we ultimately here for? Together we are reaching, discipling, sending church, impacting generations for Christ. We are about that person who doesn't know Jesus. And maybe, just like we talked about this Sunday, this is the Sunday they said, okay, honey, I'm going to go to church with you. Let me tell you, if we don't have good signage, and we don't, and we're working on it, they don't care that it was through maybe that meeting that had to be canceled and delayed and skipped and redesigned. All they know is they couldn't find the bathroom. Every number has a name. Every name has a story. And here's what I want you to understand. Every delayed handoff eventually lands on a name and a story we may never get a chance to know. Hinkle, you're raising the stakes of this. Yes, I am, because I see the rapids coming. We better get good at this now. That every delayed handoff ultimately has an impact on a name or a story that we may never get a chance to know. The second cost is to you. So first cost, we see that it ultimately hits the people coming to this church. The second cost is to you. Man, have you ever that nagging feeling of, I feel like there's something I was supposed to do? When you have something to do and you don't do it, it sits there in your brain. It's this cognitive load, and it stresses you out. You may not even be aware of it other than that nagging feeling of, I just feel like I've got a lot to do. What do you have to do? I don't know. I just have a lot to do. That is a symptom of an internal cognitive cost of not following through with something when you can. And here's the tricky thing about it. The longer you delay, the worse it gets. If you don't respond to an email in a day, a week from now, you're responding and apologizing. 2 weeks from now, you're just flat out embarrassed and maybe don't even want to reply. You see how it gets worse and worse? So that one email that may have taken 5 seconds to reply turns into stress over time. So it has a cost to you. Slow motion follow through doesn't just cost the people downstream, it costs you. The longer you carry the open loop, the heavier it gets and the harder it is to close. I want you to think of lack of follow through as a credit card. And you are charging that credit card up. And you're not turning in that receipt. And you're not paying the minimum. And it's just growing and growing to the point you don't even want to open up the app to see the balance because you're afraid to see it. That's what that does to you. And then the third cost, it caps our growth. First two costs, they could be happening now. The third one, this is in the future. If we don't solve this, those rapids are going to capsize us as an organization. The speed at which an organization can execute is the ceiling of that organization. So our ability to execute is the speed limit. If we don't close the gap, it becomes a lid on what God will do through us next. God can do whatever he wants. May we be ready to execute as quickly as he gives it to us. Right? Amen? So, the I'm going to pattern, it's not a sign of laziness. It is genuinely a natural response to a lean system in transition, which is what we are. The fix isn't working harder. I'm not just going to look at you and be like, just work harder. It's being effective and efficient with what we've already got for the sake of the people we're leading. So here's the whole thing in one sentence. You ready? This is the one sentence you want to write down. Organizational complexity due to growth amplifies slow follow through. It makes it more visible and makes it more costly. And in our model, the cost runs all the way from us to our Together We team to the people we are trying to reach. The way we've done follow through may not have changed much, but as we grow, the cost of it becomes more visible. Does that make sense? So, great. That just sounds really depressing. Thanks for all that. What can I do about it? Hey, I'll give you 7 very, very, very practical things to do about it, okay? Here we go. 1, name the gap honestly. Intention is not action. Our brains are funny. Do you know just by stating we're going to do something, our brain gives us that little dopamine hit of, hey, you kind of did a lot of it. And sometimes it becomes indistinguishable. This is why sometimes they tell you don't tell other people your goals, because you're almost kind of saying, I'm going to do this, and you feel like you did it, and then you never do it. Isn't that weird? But that's how our brains work. So name it. Recognize when you say, I'm going to get it done. It does give you a small dose of relief, but it doesn't actually do it. So instead of I'm going to, replace it with I'm doing this now. I will do this tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Put a specific time on it. 2, use if-then plans for things that keep slipping. Man, this will be a powerful one in your tool belt if you put it in. This is a very, very valuable implementation strategy where if it's just an if-then statement. Here's the format. If X happens, then I will do Y. If a baptism card is assigned to me on Sunday, I will contact that person before I leave today. See that? If this, then that. If a parent emails me about kids check-in, I will reply before I close my laptop. Right? So you want to be able to make these decisions now before you're in the moment. It's a Monday morning. I will review my open follow-ups before I check on Teams. One of the most dangerous things you can do first thing in the morning is open up your email. Don't do that. You should be accomplishing something and then open up your email because it will suck you in. So if trigger, the then becomes automatic. You've already decided. 3, default to the two-way door. I mean, this is a Jeff Bezos framework, but you've heard it before. Here's the bottom line. Some decisions are permanent. Some decisions are not permanent. Sometimes we fool ourselves in thinking that a decision to do something is permanent when it really isn't. Very few decisions we make are absolutely permanent that we can't change. Some of them are big, some of them are not. Hey, how many services should we have? That's a pretty big decision, okay? How should check-in flow today? Not a permanent decision. So recognize one decision is I can go in and out of it. This is the two-way door. I can make this decision, I can change it. Other decisions are more difficult. Once you make it, you can't change. 4, move at 70%, not 90%. 70% confidence is good enough. Hey, should I do this? Do I have 70%? Okay, I'm going. Don't look for that 90%. You'll never get the 100%. So don't let analysis paralysis hold you there. 5, shrink the first step until it's embarrassingly small. You know, when you look at a task sometimes, you're like, oh, that's so big, I don't even know where to begin. Okay, shrink the first step till it's just ridiculously small. So if you're like, okay, what's my first move? Maybe your first move is opening up a Word document. Okay, I can do that. Well, then what's your next embarrassingly small move? You don't have to make grand, ginormous steps. Just what's the next practical step? And then 6, reduce friction, increase proximity. Man, we are really good at procrastinating as human beings. It is just a natural state. We love to procrastinate. There are a few people in here that say, I don't. Bless you, because I got it, and it's in me, right? It'll happen. But people will procrastinate less when temptation is far away. Here's what I mean by that. If you sit down to do some focus work, don't pull this thing out. I'm gonna do some focus work. I wonder what's going on Instagram. You will get sucked into that. So reduce the friction, reduce the things when you're going to do the work that are absolutely going to interact with you and beat you up on that. Close Microsoft Teams and email when you're doing follow-up. Put your task list where you have to look at it. Block time on your calendar to work. Keep templates and ready-to-go responses. Do you get asked the same question a lot? Have you ever written down like kind of a general response that's good enough? Keep those easy. Here's the deal. Stop trying to do it with willpower. You won't sit down and be like, I'm going to willpower my way to work on this. Build the disciplines in your environments. Discipline will always beat willpower because I don't always have great willpower. But if I build habits, I can have good discipline. And 7, build accountability around the action, not the intention. You know, intentions are interesting, but intentions don't matter. The action and the result is what matters. Someone can say, I didn't intend to do that, but you still did it. Or I intended to complete it, but you still didn't. So build accountability around the action, not intention. Here's how you do this with each other. If I say, hey, could I get this? Blah, blah, blah. The response is, I can get that to you by tomorrow at 5. Don't just say, I'll get that to you soon. Don't just say, yep, I'll get it to you this week. Give it a real accountable time frame. That, I think, right there will take us to the next level almost immediately if we just start practicing that. Specific deadlines. Tell the person waiting on you when they'll see it. Don't make them ask. I can be better at that one. Update cards, tasks in real time, not at the end of the week. If we don't know it's done, it isn't done. When you finish, close the loop with the person who asked. Here it is. The handoff is part of the work, not separate from it. It isn't, yeah, I got it done. Did they not know that? I got it done and I told them, right? Things sometimes sit completed, especially as we get more complex and bigger, and they didn't get done with the next step. The expectation is that we communicate where things stand without being chased. Stewardship of people's time, including each other's, is part of the job. So, here's why this matters spiritually, not just operationally. Proverbs 12:24 talks about that kind of follow through and about being diligent. Every delayed handoff eventually lands on the name of a story. But here's the other side of that. Every handoff we close well is hospitality to someone we're trying to reach. Every follow through we make on time is a name and a story we got to know. Every I'm doing it today instead of I'm going to is a small act of stewardship with what God is giving us. This isn't as an organization we can be better. This is an act of stewardship to recognize God is giving us every day a gift, and we want to steward it well. A bias for action, it isn't carelessness. It's loving people enough to not leave them hanging. It's stewarding the time and trust we've been given. It's recognizing that delayed and thoughtful are not the same words. It's something that I see us as an organization that we can get better at. Not because we're bad at it now, but I see what's coming, and I want us to dig in and get better with it now so we can take that hill. So when God gives us something, we say we are as ready as we know to be for whatever you want us to do. Because, y'all, this is an incredible team. This is an incredible team. And I love this church. And so I think a year from now, as we dig into these things, we're going to look back and be like, wow, look what God did. Look what God did. And we were prepared in the best way we could be prepared for what God did. Amen?